What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you guys in here. I can see some of you waiting already. Welcome in, welcome in. News is breaking, I'll be honest, that I don't want to see. I don't want to see it, but we're talking about all things football today, all different teams, not just Chelsea. So if you're in here and you're supporting another team, then I want to know your thoughts off the bat of where you want your team to be focusing on in the final few days of the transfer window. Obviously, I'm asking the question, has your team done enough this window? And what would you rate it out of 5 in the chat? Throughout the live, that's what I want to see people rating in the chat, their team's transfer window. For me, as a Chelsea fan, I want to consider sales. I want to consider how players have been treated. I want to consider deals that have been done. And I'm going to give you my score. To be honest with you, right now, as we stand, I'm probably at a 5 or a 6. I think some of the transfers we've seen coming in have been really good. They've been really positive. I think some of the transfers I'm not so sold on. And some of the transfers and the outgoings that I've seen, I question as to whether it was the right thing to do or the right way to go about it. So I'm at 6. If we sign Osimhen or Toney, that rating could get boosted through the roof. Do not get me wrong. I'd probably be sitting there looking at an 8.5, to be honest with you. Look, big up, Pajama. Good to have you in here. Dan Knight, good to see you in here. Who do you think Chelsea will end up with? I hope it's Osimhen. I really, really do. Breaking news today. Chiesa is obviously on his way to Liverpool. I think this is a deal we need to speak about because for me, this is an interesting one. I was just chatting on Never a Foul, looking, and we're joking about Chiesa and it's not the same Chiesa, blah, 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 blah. The Chiesa that just played last season, albeit there was still a lot of injuries, his record is like the second best season he's had at Juventus and the third best in Serie A. So although we're saying it's not the same Chiesa, maybe he's worked and adapted his game to be a different Chiesa than he was pre-injury. I don't know if this is that bad of a deal for Liverpool. He's really affordable. Like, we're talking about £10 million. I think this is a deal that a lot of people are underestimating because he's not quite got the hype that he did a few years ago. He's not quite been the same sort of player that we expected him to probably be at Juventus. They paid a lot of money for him, over £40 million. I think they paid for Chiesa, and he's probably not got to the level that Juventus were expecting him to. Obviously, when they signed him from Fiorentina, his stats were a joke. He's double figures in goals and assists in a season. So it's a weird one to see Juventus let him go for so cheap. I don't know if his contract was coming to an end. He's at a good age. He's arguably going to be competitive against Diaz in that Liverpool front three. I think this could be a good deal. And people are talking about injuries and maybe him not staying fit. And yeah, look, there's a few injuries there. I think there's like 5 different injuries last season, but he only missed maybe 6 or 7 games, still played 33 games, still got 9 goals in Serie A, 3 assists. That's not that bad. Maybe that's still a better record than what Diaz put up last season for Liverpool. So I don't know if Liverpool fans are in the chat or just anyone. I'd love to know your thoughts on this Chiesa deal. Are you sort of worried if Liverpool make signings like this? Do you think he's what they need? Is he going to be an improvement to their team? Because for me, I probably laughed at it a bit at first, but after doing a bit of digging, I don't think it's as bad as it seems at all. And I feel like Liverpool haven't ever really been able to replace Sadio Mane's goals that they lost. But adding him in is another potential 10 goals that they haven't had. So maybe, just maybe, this actually isn't that bad. And for the price, it's pretty low risk. And the injuries last season, look, there is no doubt about it, right? The 2 seasons prior to last season, we're looking at 14, 15 games a season, which we know isn't good enough. But as Pajama Metal saying, it's a good deal, to be honest, not a high risk. I think it's low risk with potential high reward. And that's the type of deal that I think is shrewd, and we've seen Liverpool do that before, and it's worked out really well. We've also seen Liverpool spend a lot on signings, and we've seen Liverpool kind of get rejected. But this is a deal that they could be confident about making happen. And to be honest, I'm quite excited to see Chiesa in the Premier League. I really thought I was going to look at the stats and see a player that had played like 10, 15 games in the last 3 years. But the fact he played 33 games last season with 9 goals says to me that it's quite a good move. If we're talking about other news that's breaking today as well, the latest news in regarding Osimhen, and probably one of the biggest deals left in the transfer window, is that now apparently, according to Damasio, they are, or his camp, Osimhen's camp, is open to considering a move to Saudi Arabia. Like, that is just the last thing I wanted to hear today. I'm going to be honest. I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to hear about it. I wanted them to stay away. I see Fabrizio saying that Chelsea talks are ongoing. The fact that all of a sudden there's word and there's rumors that he's open to moving to Saudi Arabia suggests to me that something's gone wrong between Chelsea and him and his camp, and that the wages aren't going to be met, or there'll probably be an issue there. So it's concerning from a Chelsea point of view, because unless it's a smoke screen and it's a way for Juventus to for Napoli to sort of try and squeeze out every last drop, and Osimhen to squeeze out every last drop of the deal, it concerns me, because it makes me feel that maybe, just maybe, Chelsea and Osimhen are going to be too far apart on where they believe the structure should be for the wages and the finances, which will be gutting. It honestly would be, because if Chelsea could have finished the window by signing Osimhen, I think that would have been fantastic. I think that would have been the icing on top of the cake. It would have been exactly what we were looking for in terms of a striker and the profile. And the fact of the matter is that I don't think we're any closer to this deal happening than we have been all summer. PSG apparently aren't interested. Al Ahly are obviously in a position to pay Victor Osimhen the type of money that he's expecting to be paid, right? And that's the issue. I don't think Chelsea are. Chelsea are going to try and make up for it in other ways, and probably make it performance-based incentives, and probably pay a decent signing-on fee. Whereas Al Ahly will just absolutely pay the money that Osimhen is expecting. So, look, if the Chelsea deal isn't happening and they can't get close to each other, I expect them to pounce, and I expect Victor Osimhen to be playing football in Saudi Arabia by the time the transfer window in Saudi closes, because it does shut a little bit post the European deadline for most leagues. I just hope Chelsea can make something happen before that finishes. If not, we absolutely have to be bringing in a striker before deadline day. And that's where I expect to see the Ivan Toney stuff sort of rear its head again, and potentially be something that Chelsea work on in the final few days of the window. Because, look, Ivan Toney is still a good player. I said yesterday that I probably would prefer Osimhen, but for me, Ivan Toney is an exceptionally good player. He's scored a lot of goals in the Premier League. In terms of the team that he's been at, the experience that he has is pretty limited, and he's done a very good job at Brentford. Yes, I've spoken about the off-field antics before with Ivan Toney. That would be a slight question mark over him as a person and a player, and whether I'd want him to be at Chelsea. But actually, when I went and looked at the footage of Ivan Toney last night and saw what he offers away from being just a striker, it's very, very effective. He's a great player. He's well aware of his surroundings on a football pitch. His vision is fantastic. And I probably underestimated what this guy brings to a team away from scoring goals. On the ball, he's got an eye for a pass, and a very good eye at that. He's exceptional in terms of his passing and his chance creation. So maybe, just maybe, if you look at how we played against Wolves, someone like Ivan Toney is slightly different to Jackson. But if we go and get Ivan Toney or Osimhen before the end of the window, I think either deal is very, very good. But like I've said, I feel like Victor Osimhen is the type of striker that I'd want. And I think Victor Osimhen, for me, puts fear into the rest of the Premier League. I think he's that type of player that the defenders just don't want to be coping with, to be honest with you. So, like I said already, let me know your thoughts on your team's transfer window. Let me know your thoughts on the Chiesa deal, because this is one that I probably judged way too quick. And actually, after looking at Chiesa's season last year, it's really, in my opinion, not a bad deal. It's low risk, it's low expense. He's played 33 games last season. He's scored 9 goals, 3 assists. I don't really think that you're getting a better deal for a 26-year-old who's got the sort of reputation that Chiesa's once had. for a decent contract, a decent professional. I really like this deal actually from Liverpool. I really, really do. And I genuinely think that they've still got an issue in terms of their midfield. And I think maybe in the coming days, that will be somewhere that I'd expect Liverpool to maybe try and make something happen. But also, I don't think they'll want to replicate what they did with Endo at the end of last transfer window, because although he was okay, it just left them stuck a season down the line. So welcome back, Yuki. Good to have you in, my man. We're kind of just assessing where people are in terms of rating their team's transfer window. Are they happy? Are they expecting any more moves to be done? There's a bit of news in and around Crystal Palace as well. We obviously saw Sam Johnson looking to leave Palace this window, and it looks like it's going to happen. Wolves have agreed a deal to sign him. Medical's set to take place. He wanted to leave Palace, and it looks like it's been sealed today, according to Fabrizio Romano. After Jose Sarr's performance against Chelsea, I'm not surprised in the slightest. I'm really not. Sam Johnson's been a guy that's been around the England squad as well. I think Wolves have probably been looking for a keeper. Sam Johnson's never really got playing, and I think this is a good deal for them. We're looking at Maxence Lacroix moving to Crystal Palace as well from Wolfsburg. If you remember, this is the guy from the TikTok song, and obviously on FIFA having unbelievable pace for a centre-back. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him as a centre-back. I don't think I've watched much of him for Wolfsburg. I've not seen him play too much. I don't think he's been near the French national team, but Palace needed a defender. They really did. They've obviously lost Anderson to Fulham, and there's a good chance that Gay might leave before the end of the window as well. And they had to make something happen, to be honest. So we were speaking yesterday. We were saying on here that maybe Trevor Chalobah would be a good option for them. HR, big up, man. Good to see you in here as well. How you doing? I want to know people's opinions on their team's transfer window. So if you want to drop that in, let me know. Rate it out of 5. Are you happy with your team's transfer window? Do you think they could have done a little bit more? We're obviously just touching on Crystal Palace, the fact that they've got, it looks like they've agreed a deal for Lacroix. I don't know. I don't know where we stand with that. I don't know what quality he is. I don't know what he offers apart from having a lot of pace. It's an interesting one for Crystal Palace. They're not in the best shape right now. I probably expected them to start the season in a slightly better way. Let's see how that develops. I'd almost expect them to potentially even sign another defender as well if they lose Gehi. I'm probably looking at maybe someone from Chelsea moving to Crystal Palace, because I feel like it's a deal that could be done. But yeah, look, the Chiesa deal is a fantastic deal in my opinion. I think Liverpool have obviously kind of done this quite quietly. I think it's obviously picked up a bit of pace in the last few days that people have been aware that it could be happening. But yeah, 4-year deal for Chiesa to join Liverpool. It's about 13 million euros. Obviously, I think there'll be add-ons. But yeah, the Chiesa's on his way to Liverpool for what I think is a real good deal. But like I've already said, the one I've got my eye on is Victor Osimhen. And guys, I want to know your thoughts, because it's looking increasingly likely that Al Ahly could be in. Actually, I need to get that right, because they're definitely two different teams. Could be back in the running for Victor Osimhen to move to Saudi Arabia, and it's just not what we want to see. So, my issue with this, and this is what I want to address a little bit, is as a Chelsea fan, we obviously have this new wage structure in place that for some players has been okay, in terms of they're happy to come in on a certain wage, they're happy to work towards incentives, and they're happy to make sure that their performance levels, if they require more money, have to be at a certain level for them to get paid the type of money they expect, right? That's how this new deal is happening. That's this new wage structure is happening at Chelsea. It's part of the deal if you want to play for Chelsea right now. HR says, I think Osimhen is defo open to Saudi, but he still likes Chelsea. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to get to, right? But for Osimhen, he knows he can go to Saudi, and whether he performs or not, get paid an absolute fortune, get the money that he wants. And that's where I'd have a question mark over the type of player you're signing. If you sign a player that's happy to come in on performance-based incentives and know that they have to score a certain amount of goals or score at a certain rate to get paid more money, then at least they're going to be hungry if they're motivated by the financial aspect of the game. If a player doesn't want to join because they can't be paid a set amount of money, it means that they could potentially be aware that they can earn money without having to perform. And then you kind of get stuck in that rut, like we might have seen with Lukaku, obviously down in tools completely. The same with Sterling. And actually, is it the right thing for Chelsea to do? Whereas if Ivan Toney wants to come in and he's hungry and he wants to perform and he wants to be paid and he understands that he'll be paid a little bit less than what he might have got from another club, but on performance-based achievements, he could be paid the money that he could get anywhere else. So it's a weird one for me to try and weigh up. And I would like to know what people's thoughts are on the wage structure, because right now, I'm not sure I see it as a good thing. I'm not sure I see it as a bad thing. I think only time will tell. But the fact that we might miss out on a player like Victor Osimhen worries me a little bit, because I'm sure that wherever Victor Osimhen goes, he won't be downing tools and he'll be trying to achieve either club or personal accolades, no matter how old he is, no matter how much money he's earning. And it just seems a bit silly to me that you wouldn't just sort of bend the goalposts a little bit just to make sure you can sign top players. And I feel like Chelsea could be left behind. I don't see too many other teams doing this. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that a wage structure is a good idea? Because I'm starting to have my doubts, especially if we do end up missing out on Saudi. And at the end of the day, look, if Osimhen decides to go to Saudi and secures the bag, I'm not going to sit here and blame him at all, because obviously he's come. We all know Osimhen's story. We know where he's come from. Look, the money you can earn in Saudi Arabian football is eye-watering. And to be honest, I couldn't moan at anyone for taking that deal, because that is life-changing amounts of money, no matter if you're a footballer or not. Kevin De Bruyne said it himself. He said, I could play 15 years at the top level of English football and move to Saudi Arabia for 2 seasons and earn the same that I earned in the previous 15 years. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? So, look, there's not loads of teams sniffing around Osimhen. And if he can't get the money that he can get in Saudi Arabia from Chelsea, and it's about the money, why would he not go there? Yeah, look, I think the reason they're linked to Saudi is because HR is saying it's funny how we are going over Osimhen and Toney and we're both linked to Saudi. Well, the reason that's happening is because that's where Chelsea feel they have a chance. If a player favours playing in the Premier League over moving to Saudi Arabia and doesn't mind taking a bit of a pay cut to play in England, then I think they're obviously going to try their luck. I think a lot of teams at the moment aren't in a position to pay the kind of money that Brentford wanted for Ivan Toney, that Napoli wanted for Osimhen. And that's why we've seen actually their price be pretty much cut by quite a lot, because no one's around. No one's sort of sitting and waiting. I think realistically, if Arsenal had the money, I think Osimhen might be an Arsenal player. Can't be mad at a grown man not wanting to drop his wages. I agree. This is what I'm saying, is that how can you moan at any player that goes to Saudi Arabia when the money is life-changing forever? So, yeah, it's an interesting one to see how Chelsea are going to work with this, and just see if in the next couple of days we can make something happen. But I'll be honest with you, a striker for me is the minimum to finish this transfer window. No matter if we bring in Neto, no matter if we bring in Felix, no matter if we bring in Dewsbury Hall or Tosin, I just feel like a striker was one of the main issues before we started this transfer window. And albeit we've moved players on and we've had to recruit in other areas as well. But I think a transfer window that was opening in June, for me, I think it was a striker and a centre-back that I felt were absolute musts. And if we end up not signing either of a good enough quality, I'd be concerned. So let's see what happens. But reading through the rest of the transfer news, let me know your thoughts, by the way. HR saying I'd either take Osimhen or Toney. I think we're probably being spoiled, aren't we, if we're trying to like pick a favourite there, because most teams would take either. To be honest with you, so would I at this stage. I don't think we're in a position to be fussy. I do think competition is needed. So for me, hopefully, one gets done in the next couple of days because we are so close to the end of the transfer window. We've obviously got a big game as well tomorrow night for Chelsea, but yeah, I want to focus on Manchester United for a second because they've signed Agate. There's still a bit of noise around them as well that something could potentially happen before the end of the window as well in terms of either recruiting Raheem Sterling or potentially seeing the likes of Sancho leave and even Ivan Toney I've heard being thrown around to Manchester United as well. So if we're looking at the midfield for Manchester United, I think we can all agree that has been a bit of an issue for Manchester United under Ten Hag. I don't think he's ever quite got it right. I think there's been a bit of an imbalance there. I think there's been signings that I couldn't understand. I'll admit when they signed Mason Mount, I was kind of happy to see him move on in the fact that on the way that he'd sort of treated and acted around Chelsea, but I didn't understand the move itself. I didn't understand when Mason Mount fitted into the system. And I look at Manchester United's transfer window and I think it's been okay. But I just think the Ugarte isn't quite the signing that I would have wanted to see at Manchester United. I just feel like he's obviously moved on McTominay this summer and brought in Ugarte. And yes, there is a quality difference. Manuel Ugarte looks to probably be a better player than Scott McTominay, but I think Scott McTominay sort of falls into a similar category that Conor Gallagher does at Chelsea. And I just feel like, are these teams losing identity in the fact that I can guarantee you right now, if Sir Alex Ferguson was around in terms of managing Manchester United and in that role, Scott McTominay would still be a Manchester United player. The amount of money they've got for him, though, is exceptional, especially from Napoli. I think they've done very, very well to get that fee. So fair enough. Scott McTominay's obviously had a pretty good season last year. I understand that he's not Manchester United's best player, but he came up in moments last season for them. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how Manchester United's midfield looks over the coming weeks. I think the Ugarte one is an interesting one. We obviously spoke a lot about him as Chelsea fans last season because we felt like he was going to be joining Chelsea, and he obviously went to PSG in the last couple of minutes. Big up, Stephen. Good to see you guys in here as well. Alexander as well. Osimhen will not come. Move on, grab Toney, and we are okay. I think we have to make one happen, don't we? If we're waiting for Osimhen, I think we'll lose both Toney and Osimhen. Yeah, I hear you, because I don't think a team like Manchester United, like we're saying, they will try and get on the phone to Toney and make something happen whilst we're chasing that lost cause of Osimhen potentially. For me, Chelsea have to make one or the other happen. But look, if you're Manchester United and you're looking at Ugarte coming into the midfield, I still think you'll be aware that there's issues. I don't think Kobbie Mainoo has really found his exact role in that Manchester United midfield, because I don't think Ten Hag has really settled on the type of midfield he wants to play. Sometimes I see a 3, sometimes I see this 4, and I'm just a little bit confused with Ten Hag. So I'm intrigued to see that Liverpool game at the weekend and see where Ten Hag is sort of moulding this Manchester United midfield this season and what he's trying to get them to do, and see how he's trying to get them to play, because I'm still not sold on where Mason Mount fits in. The Bruno role confuses me a little bit. I'm not sure on where Ugarte fits in. Casemiro, I just want to see how that develops. So that's an interesting one. I understand that Ugarte probably is a better player in terms of what he offers on the ball and on the pitch than Scott McTominay. And to be quite honest, if you can generate that type of fee for Scott McTominay, then I can see why you'd let him go. And I can see why some Manchester United fans are happy to see him go. But I hear what people like Rio Ferdinand are saying as well, because Scott McTominay does understand what it is to be a United player. We saw him score goals in important moments, in the dying moments last season when United needed him. And that's the type of player that back in the day, Fergie liked. Ugarte's a robust midfielder that in this sort of end-to-end system that we've seen Ten Hag deploy, he can definitely find himself being an absolute certainty to be playing in that Manchester United midfield. I think going forward, I've been impressed with what I've seen of Xerxes so far, albeit only a couple of games. I think that actually looks like a really good signing. I think Mazraoui just added a bit of natural balance that I feel like we haven't seen from Manchester United's other fullbacks in a few years. They need a left back, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Chilwell ends up there before the end of the window. Maybe even if it's a loan, I just wouldn't be shocked. Defensively, they've signed De Ligt and Lenny Euro. That I think they're great additions as well. But for me, Manchester United are dying for an out-and-out goal scorer. I really think that that's where Manchester United of the past have always had, when they've been really competitive, have always had a solid goal scorer. And they haven't got that. And that's why I think the Ivan Toney move really suits Manchester United at the same time. And if Chelsea do go chasing Osimhen and Manchester United make that move happen for Ivan Toney, I think that would be a very, very good signing. I think it would be the type of signing that Manchester United would be known for, signing the best British striker in the league, arguably, because Harry Kane's not here anymore. Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins are probably one or the other. Probably Watkins nods it by a little bit, but Ivan Toney is up there. I don't see Watkins moving. So to be honest, I think that would be a really, really good move for Manchester United if they could make Ivan Toney happen. I think Brentford have probably reduced the fee that they'd be looking for as well, because no one's been in for Ivan Toney yet so far this summer. He's not got his move. Brentford aren't playing him. They probably don't really want him around now. They know he wants a move. So I think obviously they're trying to cash in on him, because if they have another season where he doesn't perform almost like he did at the end of last year, do they want to take another risk? So I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but Ivan Toney to Manchester United is one I would watch just out of the corner of my eye, because if they get him, I think that's a very, very, very attractive forward line for Manchester United. And there's also talks about Raheem Sterling. I think watch this space. I don't expect Raheem Sterling to be at Chelsea come the end of the window. I don't know where he goes. If he goes to Manchester United, they're getting a very good player. I think someone who has never found the right environment at Chelsea. I'd worry about Manchester United's environment, whether it's the right environment for Raheem. But Manchester United need experience and leaders in their dressing room as well. A lot of young players have spoke very, very highly about Raheem Sterling at Chelsea. I think he adds goals. He adds competition to the squad. He's flexible. He can play in the two in terms of how Ten Hag's been playing. So Raheem Sterling would be another interesting one. And I definitely expect Manchester United to be busy and making something happen in an attacking area before the end of the window. Just answer a couple of you guys' questions as well. If we're waiting for Osimhen, I think we'll lose both Toney and Osimhen. Look, there's a chance. I wouldn't be shocked, to be honest with you, if Chelsea did end up losing out on both. If we do, it's not great, guys. We really can't be missing out on a striker. We have to make one happen. We've got quite a few of you guys in here as well. If you could smash the likes and we could hit 30 likes today on the stream, I think that'd be unbelievable. I want to know your guys' thoughts on the transfer window for your clubs. Obviously, predominantly talking about Chelsea, but today we're focusing on other deals that could be happening as well. Has your team done enough this window? Rate it out of 5 in the comments down below. Make sure to let me know, because I'm intrigued to see what you guys think of the latest deals, what you guys think of the team's transfer window for sure. Do you need to sign anyone before the end of the window? I think as Chelsea fans, we're all pretty much set on the fact that we do need to probably sign a striker. Am I going to do another live today? Probably not, Lionel, but if Chelsea have some breaking news, maybe I'll jump to it. You know where it's always good, by the way, to catch me for a live or something like that is definitely I would say TikTok. If something is new and it's breaking, I could potentially be live on TikTok quicker than I can on YouTube. So always worth checking out the TikTok as well. Just to answer this one as well. What are your thoughts on selling Disasi and bringing back Chalobah? Look, I've seen this, and we touched on it very, very late in yesterday's stream, and we didn't really speak about it too much. But Trevor Chalobah is an ultimate professional. Big up, Ty. How are you doing, my man? Good to have you in here. Obviously, I'm looking to see if Arsenal make anything happen before the end of the window. So what are your thoughts, Tyrell? Do you think Arsenal are going to sign anyone else in the coming days? I feel like you guys would love a striker to arrive for sure. But look, if Chalobah is the ultimate pro, like we know that he is, and he's just gone and got on with it and trained and not moaned and not kicked up a fuss and been a good role model for everyone else in and around, and Chelsea look at it and go, oh, we've made a mistake here, they owe him a massive apology. They really do, because the way they've treated him has been awful. It's not right. It's not fair. It's disgraceful. But I do know that Trevor Chalobah is probably one of the better centre-backs at this club, and I would love to see Trev playing for Chelsea. I think he was unfairly treated before. I think he's been unfairly treated again. And I think he actually had a really good level of performances. So maybe if Trevor Chalobah returns, it would have to be in a certain way, and there would have to be an apology from the club, I think. At least, look, it doesn't have to be publicly, but to Trev, because I don't think Trevor can probably accept how he's been treated. I don't think that's right. But if Disasi goes, I'm not that bothered. I don't think Disasi has a future in, to be honest, I don't think Disasi has a future under Maresca. I don't think he does. I think we've barely seen him play. We've obviously seen him play in the midweek game. They put him out towards right back again. If I was Disasi, I'd probably be looking for a move, to be honest, because we all know that the writing's on the wall for Disasi. We can all see it. He's okay. He's probably not at the level we thought he was going to be at. And to be honest, if Disasi moves for a decent amount, I could probably live with that. But I'd want to see an apology to Trevor Chalobah. And you know what? If Trevor Chalobah comes back in, then I'd probably sit here and say, I'm not sure we need a centre-back. I could probably live with Trevor Chalobah being part of Chelsea's defence. And then I would say, look, we didn't sign a good enough quality centre-back, but we managed to keep Trevor Chalobah and not move him on. We signed Tosin as well, and Renato Vega looks to be someone that could potentially play in a couple of defensive roles as well. So it would interest me. If we get Osimhen, then we should finish top 4. If not, the directors need to be sacked. I don't think they need to be sacked because they're going after the right targets, which I kind of questioned. But I do think the wage structure is something that maybe we need to question, because if the wage structure is the reason we didn't get Osimhen, that would annoy me a little bit. Sterling to Arsenal. Look, I'll be honest. I see potential in this move, because I heard Sterling doesn't want to leave London. I heard Mikel Arteta waxing lyrical about Raheem Sterling. So maybe, just maybe, this is a deal that potentially could happen, because if we look at Arsenal's winger situation as well, Sterling could be back up for Saka. He could play instead of Martinelli if he's not performing well. He's a good pro. I think if I was Arsenal and Raheem Sterling rocked up and you managed to sign him this window, I would take that. I really would. I think even if you got him on loan, I think he'd be a great addition to the squad as a whole. And Raheem Sterling's another player that I don't exactly like how he's sort of just been pushed out the way he has been. But ultimately, we know he's not been good enough for Chelsea, but we put him on a level where we expected him to be the main man. Arsenal have already got their main men. Raheem Sterling doesn't have to be that. He just has to be part of a squad. Arteta knows what you're getting from Raheem Sterling. I see that as a better match than I do than Manchester United, to be honest with you. And it isn't unlike Arsenal to want to take players away from Chelsea as well. So I see that Sterling would like to explore that one more than Manchester United. But look, if Arsenal aren't in for him, they're not in for him. But for me, I think that deal probably makes a little bit more sense. I could probably see him fitting in more, because Martinelli absolutely has to perform this season. Otherwise, I think questions start being asked. They've obviously got Marino, and I wonder whether that left-hand side will feel a little bit stronger again this season for Arsenal, whereas we've obviously seen before with Xhaka that Martinelli absolutely thrived when that left-hand side was a little bit more consistent. I'd definitely keep Chalobah if Disasi left 100%. I think, look, although you make clear profit by selling someone like Trevor Chalobah, if Chelsea keep him, it also solves the issue of having to go out and buy ourselves a centre-back, basically. So, yeah, I would be an advocate of Trevor staying if the situation is recovered and dealt with in the right way, to be honest with you. Disasi probably sees himself as a starter because of how many games he's played last season. So a move for him would be ideal. Look, I'll be honest. Where does Disasi go? Does he go like Palace? Does he go anywhere in England, or is it a move back to France? We know full well that French clubs aren't spending a lot this summer because of the TV deal. Only Lyon, I think, have tried to spend some money. Marseille have obviously recruited as well. I don't know if I see where Disasi gets a move to. I think, by the way, Disasi's been harshly treated and harshly reviewed at Chelsea. On the ball, definitely not as bad as what people make out. He's been a player that has consistently battled for Chelsea. Oh, look, he's made mistakes, but who hasn't at Chelsea in this team of youngsters? A lot of them have made mistakes. I think Disasi is a player that I wouldn't mind staying at Chelsea, but in this system, I don't see it happening. So for him to want to move, I think you're right. He'd want to go somewhere where he feels like he's going to start, to be honest with you. So definitely, if he moves on, Chelsea have to recruit a centre-back. And whether that is promoting Trevor Chalobah back or that is signing someone. But look, if he goes before the end of the window, I might be shocked if Disasi left before the end of the window. But I would say that by January, the writing will be on the wall, to be honest with you. Osimhen is the best for now for Chelsea. Look, I think the situation's very obvious. I think Chelsea are working with Osimhen. Osimhen is speaking to Chelsea via an agent, obviously. I also think Chelsea is trying to sort of figure out a fee and a financial package for Osimhen that would work, a financial package for ADL and Napoli that will work, because right now I think that they're two huge issues in this deal, and we're running out of time. So Osimhen, we know, wants more money than what Chelsea are willing to pay. So how do they figure that one out? Like we've already said, is it performance-based incentives? Is it a huge signing on fee and as much wage as they can potentially pay him to not upset the apple cart, because they've put in other players on smaller wages and promised them performance-based incentives as well because of the new wage structure? And with Napoli, this is the price that we want you to pay. I think Chelsea are probably willing to pay the money that Napoli want for Osimhen. I think it's just they want to make sure they get this deal right. They don't want to put Osimhen on this huge contract and he get nowhere near it. If Osimhen doesn't perform for Chelsea, they're not getting stung by paying loads of money because he isn't scoring goals. If he scores goals and Chelsea are being rewarded for his goals, they'll reward Osimhen with money. But if they can't get close, I probably expect Osimhen to move to Saudi Arabia. I don't know how long he'd go there for, by the way, either. I don't know if it'd be for a year and then try and get another move. But what happens is, as soon as he moves to Saudi and he earns that kind of money, it must become very, very difficult to move back to Europe when you're not earning that kind of money, unless you become very, very comfortable when your bank account is lined, basically. And then you can earn whatever you want. This is an interesting one. I think the reason Mudryk's not being spoken about as a player that could potentially be leaving Chelsea is because, one, the performances haven't been good enough that I don't think anyone else is really interested in. I think Mudryk is a player that Chelsea believe in. I think they can see the ability. They can see that there's raw talent there. I think they just believe that his footballing education hasn't been good enough. And I think we can all see that. If, however, Mudryk really doesn't perform this season, I expect Chelsea to try and move Mudryk on. I do, even if it's a loan. If Mudryk left on loan before the end of this transfer window, that wouldn't surprise me either. But I think obviously the clear and obvious departures for Chelsea are probably going to be Sterling and Chilwell before the end of the window, and maybe throw in Disasi or Broja as well, because we've got loads of players to move on. And right now, we're running out of time. Look, another season of a similar level from Mudryk, I think he would be moved on. The only reason they're probably looking to keep him is because they're actually probably not paying him too much in wages. So maybe they're okay with it at the same time. Mudryk's just been such a confusing one. I always think back to that Liverpool game on his debut, albeit, look, there was a Milner on the pitch, but I've seen James Milner playing the other day in centre midfield and he still looks absolutely fine. It just baffles me because I've never seen Mudryk get close to that level of his debut ever again. And it just baffles me. What the player that we saw that day, where's he gone? Aaron Ramsdale, another player that obviously is being spoken about in terms of a move before the end of deadline day. Look, I'm so glad, and I'll say this as a Chelsea fan, that it's not to Chelsea, because as much as I don't appreciate our goalkeeping situation at the club right now, one keeper I did not want was Aaron Ramsdale. I think he made some comments that concern me, that have been very evident in the way that he's played over the last season or two as well. We're talking about his concentration and that sort of suggestion that he struggles to concentrate in games. I just didn't want him anywhere near Chelsea, to be honest with you. And the fact that he's now being talked to move to Southampton probably suggests the level that Ramsdale's considered to be at by a lot of Premier League clubs, because we're talking about Southampton probably getting relegated this season. I don't know if they're good enough to make the jump. So if he was to go there and be purchased on a permanent, there is a chance that Ramsdale could be a Championship keeper next season. And what does that say, to be honest? Arsenal are obviously in for Garcia as well, the goalkeeper that they're trying to get as his replacement. So that could happen. Ramsdale, for me, is just a keeper I don't want to see anywhere near Chelsea or the England team, to be honest with you. I think he's been okay at times, but there were too many question marks when he got relegated, and I think we're seeing them again. I don't think he's good enough. Mudryk will come good, says Delight. Oh, look, I hope he does. I quite like Mudryk. I think he's quite a likable character, and he's had such a lot of upset and challenges in his life in the last probably few years. It's probably been an absolute roller coaster for the kid. But unfortunately, football is a business, and if he's not performing, then he'll be moved on. It's as simple as that. Guys, we've got so many of you in here right now. If we could get up to 30 likes, that would be unbelievable. I think we could all do that quite easily. All you have to do is just smash the like button. If you're new as well, make sure to subscribe. We're on the route to 3,000 subscribers on here, so that would be absolutely unbelievable. I am trying to build a community that can talk about any type of football. We can talk about Chelsea. We can talk about transfers, what's going on everywhere. I want to see your guys' opinions in the chat. I want to do, I was saying, I want to do some phone-in shows. I want to get some of you guys on to come and have your say as well after the games at the weekend and stuff like that. So stay tuned. If you're tuning in for the watch-alongs and the reactions, obviously, post-weekend games, there could be some phone-ins as well. Massive news today for Liverpool. They've finally made a signing in Chiesa. He's moving from Juventus for a really reasonable fee, about 13 million euros. It's probably around 10 million pounds, I think. Stephen, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys. The likes are going up as we speak. It's fantastic to see. What's the story with Osimhen? Would you rather him than Toney? We'll get onto it in a sec, Corbza. We're just touching back on Chiesa. Obviously, it's not really worked for him in terms of the Juventus move. I think they probably all expected him to get to a way better and a way more effective player for them than he's turned out to be honest. They signed him as a player that came with double figures in goals and assists from Fiorentina. He's had probably 2 okay seasons at Juventus where he's got around 10 goals. And he's played a decent amount of games, but there was 2 seasons in the middle of his Juventus career that really did get hampered by injury. He's really struggled with injuries. I don't think he's anywhere near the same sort of player that he was pre-injury at Fiorentina, but I still think he's a good player. And for Liverpool, it's pretty low risk. So I'm intrigued to see how this works. I want to know your thoughts as well. Poet says, Chilwell to Man U, how is that? Look, I'll be honest. I think Chilwell to Man United is something I can see as having legs. I think this could have potential. Ben Chilwell obviously is good mates with Mason Mount. Ben Chilwell is a left back, like a traditional left back. I think he can be a left wing back, but he definitely plays as a left back, even though some people don't identify him as that, Pochettino. But I think this is something that could work. And I genuinely think Ben Chilwell should have been on the phone as soon as he realised he wasn't going to be near the Chelsea team, trying to work and move to Manchester United. Luke Shaw's injured too much. Malassi has been nowhere. You're saying Fabrizio said it won't happen. If that's the case, that is crazy. I just think that was a much better deal. But what are we saying that Chelsea will be stuck with Ben Chilwell, and then we're not going to see it? I just feel like that's such a silly situation because we've basically said Ben Chilwell needs to go because he's not going to get minutes. And then if he doesn't get look, maybe he ends up in Saudi. I don't know, to be honest with you. But Maresca's made it pretty clear that him and Sterling are going to struggle for game time. Yeah, I think this is the most important thing, Corbs. I think the price is something that makes it still really low risk, and it's a player that we know he has a ceiling that if he can get to that again, he's an exceptional player. But we also all know that the injuries have taken their toll on him, and he hasn't quite got to that level. We still have to sort out. I do think that, Stephen. I do think there are issues with Chelsea defensively. However, if Disasi goes, Vega performs to the level that we hope he does, either Fofana or Colwell start getting to the level that people have suggested they could be close to, and we apologise to Trevor Chalobah and put him back in amongst our squad and our playing staff, then I start to feel a little bit better. I just think that Trevor Chalobah brings something that not many of the other defenders at Chelsea bring, and that's kind of what I'd be looking for in a defender for us to purchase. So, look, maybe Trev deserves another chance because I really think he's probably one of the better defenders left at the club, to be honest with you. Yeah, look, two good players, I think, looking to have promising seasons, in my opinion. Vega and Cucurella. I think they've both looked okay as well, the way we've started. We've got a big game tomorrow. Just found out that Felix isn't going to be involved. I found out that Neto's not training. Apparently that's to manage workload. Reece James not training, and Lavia obviously not training either. So let's see what happens there. And apparently in Nkunku, it could potentially be managed as well. Don't agree with how Trevor is, but yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing for me. If Trevor comes back, I think the club will need to apologise. I've got to be honest with you. I really do think that they're going to have to apologise. So yeah, look, it is what it is. It's a busy few days ahead, I'm sure, for Chelsea. It's a busy few days ahead for other teams as well in the Premier League, other teams in Europe, and then it'll be probably a busy couple of weeks ahead for Saudi Arabia, as I'm sure their window stays open a little bit later, like it did last year. I expect to see Chelsea signing a striker. I really do. The Osimhen news at this moment in time is that he isn't, and I repeat, he isn't settled on Chelsea. Hourly have been informed that he's still open to the idea of joining them. That worries me. That tells me that Pedro Neto is potentially being managed, by the way, Lionel, just to make sure he doesn't get injured like he's done at Wolves, and he's had a lot of injuries. So I think it's a management schedule. But if the reason Osimhen is still interested in Al Ahly is because they can pay him the money in a guaranteed wage packet and probably more, and Chelsea can't do that. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And if Chelsea can't get close to what Osimhen wants and they can't get close to what Napoli wants, I expect Chelsea to go and make Ivan Toney deal happen. Make the Ivan Toney deal happen. I really do. We cannot close out this transfer window without signing a striker. If we do, I feel like we've recruited in the wrong areas. Look, don't get me wrong. I love the Pedro Neto signing. I really like João Felix as a player. I think he's a great player. His goal the other day was so well taken. He's just a nice player to watch. I don't mind the Dewsbury Hall signing. Look, the Tosin one, I understand it, but I'm not a massive fan. We needed a striker and we needed a centre-back, in my opinion, going into this window. If we don't sign a centre-back, but we sign a striker, I can live with it. If we sign a centre-back and we don't sign a striker, I can probably live with it, as long as they're good enough. I'm not. By the way, I know Tosin's a centre-back. I mean better. If we don't make a striker signing before the end of the window, I'll just feel so frustrated because I felt like it could have happened. The possibility was there, and we've missed our opportunity. David Washington, look, unbelievable that some people last season were telling me he was the future of Chelsea. Datro Fofana as well, exactly the same. These guys have never been signed to be part of Chelsea's first team. They just haven't. They've never been signed for that reason. They've been signed to be moved on for profit, as simple as that. So I don't want to hear people whining that I know they will about our players that we've got sitting around in terms of strikers. And Stephen is bang on. Look, he's basically laughing at the fact that people were suggesting that as well. Chelsea have to sign a top quality striker to be considered. Look, people were talking about Chelsea being scary a couple of days ago. And then people heard that we're being linked with Osimhen and they're thinking, oh my gosh, this Chelsea team already looked good. Why would you not just make it happen? Look, I see this, that he's the only one reporting Osimhen still open to Saudi, but Damasio seems to be one of the guys that's keeping tabs on this one. I'm sat here just waiting for Ornstein to just drop the news that this deal is happening or it's close. I'm not sure. Damasio, he's okay. I don't think he's completely off the pace as a journalist. I don't think he's sat there making stuff up like some journalists do. I genuinely think this guy is pretty respectable. I do understand that Osimhen would still be interested in that move to Ali because there's a financial package there that other teams can't get close to. And there's not many teams in the market for Osimhen right now. It's Chelsea or there. And if Chelsea can't pay him the type of wages, that would worry me. Os's agent dragged him pretty hard. I haven't seen that. If you want to share the link and stuff, then let me know. Look, it is what it is. There's going to be noise coming from everywhere regarding this Osimhen deal. And until we start seeing some concrete evidence coming out from the really respected journalists, it's obviously going to be speculation. As a Chelsea fan, though, we want it to happen. I'm under the impression that a club wouldn't approach Napoli with an offer unless they knew that they'd worked out a financial package with the player. No, I know, Arthur. I know you weren't, by the way. I know you weren't. I just haven't seen that. I really appreciate you passing on the info, mate. What would you say about the age of Toney? I don't think there's an issue there. I think Ivan Toney for his age is actually a good age for the squad. If he is matured now, if he has learned from previous issues, I think Ivan Toney could be a good sign-in. I think actually Ivan Toney is a good goal scorer. He's actually a really intelligent player, which I probably didn't give him credit for yesterday. I've gone and watched some of his footage. There's a serious footballing brain in that player, and I probably didn't give him credit for that. But his ability is unbelievable in certain circumstances. There's instances where I see him play an unbelievable level of passes to create opportunities for his teammates. I really like him. And if we don't end up with Osimhen and we sign Ivan Toney, I do think he's still a really, really good fit. And I think he adds something that this Chelsea team don't have at this moment in time. And I think for the type of money that he might cost, it's okay. But my preference is Osimhen. There's no doubt about that. I think he's a better age. I think he's a better fit for the team. Yeah, I want to see that. He's getting old. We know we've aged. Yeah, look, the board obviously like younger players, but if they feel like they can make that deal happen and he's affordable and he could be the type of player that scores goals for Chelsea, I think they'll take the risk. I really do. But I think Osimhen is the type of player they would probably rather sign, because if they get Osimhen for 60, 70 million, say, I genuinely think they'll believe that if he performs and they ever try to sell him, I genuinely think he would be in a position to still demand a decent, sizable fee. Whereas I feel like if you get 2 good seasons out of Ivan Toney, he's 30, you're not going to make any profit or try and get a good fee back out of him, I don't think. Osimhen has given Chelsea the green light over a move this summer amid doubts. Yeah, look, I think he's basically said to Chelsea, I would like to join you, but I need the money, and I need the money up front, or I need the money in a way that's paid to me, obviously, in a weekly contract that's sizable, not on performance incentives. And Chelsea basically said we can't do that, but we're trying to work something out. I bet it's been really complicated, to be honest with you. Otherwise, I think it would have been done. Do you think Maresca? What I like, though, although there's murmurings and there's rumours, I will say that I like that. I feel like we're not getting leaks from anywhere. It's a lot of it's speculation. And before, there's been leaks coming out of Chelsea and blah, blah, blah. The way we went around Pedro Neto was there was no leaks. Nothing came out of the club. it's just speculation because people know Osimhen has to leave Napoli, and Chelsea are the only team sort of interested in this. Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I think Chelsea are moving in the right direction around this deal. I don't want him to just cough up the money, to be honest with you. I do want to see Osimhen be a little bit flexible as well and want to join Chelsea, because if he wants to join, he'll probably take a pay cut. Yeah, I do. I actually think Maresca will get the best out of either of those. I really do. I think the tax they are paying is... Yeah, look, there's all these sort of issues around the Osimhen deal. We get to see what happens, but we are 1 like away from 30 likes. So if we could smash that, that would be absolutely fantastic. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. We're building up this unbelievable community here. I've loved chatting about transfers today as well. Like I said, I'm trying to bring a stream or a live pretty much daily on TikTok and YouTube during the season. So tune in for that if you haven't already. Check me out on all the other socials, Discord links in the description, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I love to speak to you guys away from the streams and the live as well and interact on those platforms. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting transfers and football news today. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Chelsea get a transfer over the line in terms of a striker. We move some players on and we get a win against Servette midweek as well. Been an absolute pleasure, guys. I will speak to you all in a bit.